This channel is sponsored by CraftyCube. More about them whenever the f I want. There's many ways to measure how impressive a Rubik's Cube solution is. One of these methods is the Fewest Moves Challenge, or FMC for short. Here's how it goes. You've been given a scrambled Rubik's Cube, along with a piece of paper and 1 hour on the clock. Your job? Find the most efficient solution to the scramble within the allotted time. During an official WCA competition, the people who look over the comp and make sure everything is up to code are called the delegates. You'll see why this is important in a second. In 2024, people were desperately trying to get a sub 20 move mean. Why 20? Well, the rule of God's number states that any fairly scrambled Rubik's Cube can be solved in 20 moves or less. There had been multiple singles that proved the God's number theory, but no one had been able to achieve a mean of 3 that was less than 20 moves. Until Sri Lankan Nationals FMC 2024. Seemingly out of nowhere, Kalindu Sachintha Wijesundara had beaten all odds and broken the world record on the final round, a 19.67 mean. Not only had he broken the world record, but during the first round, he'd gotten an average of 20.33 moves. 20.33 would put him at second place in the world. Amazing, right? Except Kalindu's last official average, only 3 months before the record, was 33.33 moves. Now, it was known that he'd been practicing, sure, but something seemed out of place. Kalindu was also a delegate. This raised suspicion in people's minds because they were worried that as a delegate, Kalindu may have had access to the scrambles before the competition and therefore he could have prepared and memorized the solutions and simply transcribed them on the day of the competition. May 25th, 2024, the WCA Disciplinary Committee, or the WDC, was contacted and an investigation was opened. To practice, Kalindu and other FMC solvers may use computer programs like Nissi, Mallard, or Cube Explorer. These are well-known software within the FMC community. On March 31st, a few months before the competition, Kalindu was found to be saying this. Hi guys, is there a guide on how to use Nissi to check optimal solution for each step? Considering this was said only a few months before the competition, we know that Kalindu had been trying to learn how to use FMC solving software. That in itself isn't proof of anything, but it was suspicious. Many experienced professional solvers analyzed Kalindu's solutions and his working sheets, and they found some interesting things. All of Kalindu's solutions use DR and HDR. Now, for some context, DR is short for domino reduction, which is the method that most top FMC solvers use. HDR is half-turn reduction, which is one of the 4 steps involved in domino reduction. His solutions always used DRs that were longer than most top solvers, but his finishes were much shorter, which led to shorter solutions. Kalindu also didn't write down much, which is highly uncharacteristic compared to the top solvers. But what he did write down always seemed to work out. The level of knowledge that Kalindu possessed was classed as that of an intermediate solver by the professionals. Now, all of this still could be luck-based, right? Welcome the creator of Mallard, Jonas Balsfollett. The WCA contacted him to check if the scrambles of the competition had been run through his software beforehand, which would prove Kalindu's guilt once and for all. Jonas gets back and nothing. So he didn't cheat? Huh. Later, they contacted Jonas again to check for scrambles from other competitions before the Sri Lankan Nationals. And sure enough, jackpot. March 6th, this scramble appears in Mallard's logs. The same scramble from Maravilla Cubing Challenge 2024 on March 10th. March 13th, this scramble appears in the logs. The same one from Rajarat Cubing Challenge 2024 on March 16th. The scrambles had been leaked. But by who? The only person who could possibly have access to these scrambles with so much time to spare is beyond a doubt the delegate. And who was the only listed delegate for both of these competitions? Kalindu Sachintha Wijesundara. In the end, Kalindu was given a ban of 8 years from all WCA competitions. His role as a delegate was removed. Carl, blow him up. Matyas Kuti was by all means a legend. He broke into the competitive cubing scene at the Polish Open 2006, and Kuti dominated. He'd placed first in every single event leading up to the Belgian Open 2008. He even broke world records, first with a time of 1 minute and 20.3 seconds, and then with a time of 54.83 seconds. Hey, wait a second, that sounds a bit slow. It was blind. He was blindfolded while solving, and he got a 54.83 in 2008. Blindfolded solving is one of the more fascinating sides of speed cubing. Here's how it goes. Once you're ready to solve, you start the timer and are able to inspect the cube. So the final time actually includes your inspection times. Then you memorize some magic letters and put on your blindfold. Also, make sure you look really cool doing it. Then an opaque object is placed in front of you, and you may start execution of your solve. Then you can just stop the timer once you think you're done. Easy, right? With over 500 solves and world records in 2x2, 4x4, 5x5, clock, square one, magic, and master magic, I don't even know what that last one is, there's no doubt that Matyas Kuti was an exceptionally high profile cuber. But just because you're cream of the crop doesn't mean the crop is good. Remember that rule about putting an opaque object in front of the solver? That seems kind of important, right? Well, it wasn't really a rule back then. In fact, it is because of Matyas Kuti that this rule exists in the first place. Back then, a judge occasionally blocked the line of sight of the competitor with a scorecard. During the World Championships held in 2007, something suspicious is spotted by Milan Batic. On his third solve in the final round, Kuti's execution, when his vision is blocked by the judge, pauses. Now, if he were to be completely blindfolded, that of course should not happen. Batic contacted the WTC, and an investigation was now inevitable. Considering the dominance of Matyas Kuti, things had to be taken very, very seriously by the WCA. Well, for me, that whole obstruction of his line of sight video was quite enough to confirm that he was cheating. The WCA decided that it was completely unnecessary. You see, Kuti had also participated in the multiple blindfold event, where you solve multiple cubes blindfolded. Out of the 15 cubes that he solved, the second cube was enough to seal the deal. What happens is Kuti messes up several pieces by mistake, but then instead of undoing those moves like anyone would, he starts looking around the cube, notices that he's made a mistake, and then just starts solving the corners while leaving the edges completely messed up. If the first suspicions weren't enough, this was definitive. There was no doubt about it. The Matyas Kuti had cheated. If you'd like the full breakdown, I've listed all my sources in the description. One thing I found pretty funny during this whole investigation is that the WDC advised Kuti to contact his parents, but he didn't. So what did the WDC do? They called his mom. You. In the end, Kuti's records in all blindfold events were expunged, and he had to return all the prize money he'd earned from the World Championship in Budapest to 7 towns. Wait, how much was this prize? 2,000 euros! Once he returned the prize money, Kuti would be banned from competing in any WCA event for 36 months. Since he's the reason the WCA now has better blindfold rules, Carl, blow him up, but very gently, okay? Oh, this one's spicy. Up until now, we've been looking at side events like blind and FMC. Telesforo broke the 3x3 world record single. For the Rubik's Cube competition that's by far the most popular and most competitive, Telesforo had just created history. Welcome to 2013. Mátyás and Feliks Zemdegs have both made huge strides by solving the Rubik's Cube in 5 seconds, and the world was waiting for a sub 5-second solve. Everyone was clenching their heart. Who's it gonna be? Will it be Feliks, Walk, or is it gonna be someone else entirely? Then comes Pereira Open 2013, held in Mexico City. On May 25th, which seems to be just another random Saturday, the world record for the fastest 3x3 Rubik's Cube solve would be broken. Not only would it be broken, it would be completely shattered with a 4.41 second solve. But wait a minute, where's the actual solve? Who is this guy? Why is his last solve 31 seconds? Why is his average 26.42 seconds? To me, That doesn't make sense. And it didn't make sense to a lot of people. One after another, after another, after another, suspicions started to grow. For one, there was no recording for the actual solve, just the reaction. Any top solver who thinks they're capable of breaking the world record pretty much always records their official solves. Now, some don't, or sometimes people do get lucky and get a super fast time, but as you'll see soon, this was not the case here. There's also the fact that the person who broke the record was nowhere near capable of producing a sub 5 result, let alone a 4.41. And all of these aside, people were suspicious of his solution. The actual set of moves that Telesforo had made to break the world record were nonsensical. Why? Well, usually people use one of these 4 methods to solve a Rubik's Cube. There's of course many more, but they're less common. Telesforo had used none of these. Not only did he use none of these, he didn't use any method. There was simply no logical flow to his solution. Let's take a deeper look into his solution. Telesforo describes his solution as x2 plus some moves he improvised plus a J-perm. X2 just means he moved the cube around, so that doesn't even count as a move. And a J-perm is a standard algorithm to solve the last layer of a Rubik's Cube. The last step of the solution. Improvise some moves? Okay, that's a very difficult to swallow pill there, buddy. I might choke. Because according to Telesforo, he had basically just improvised the entire solve. Telesforo's solution was 31 moves long in total. The top solutions right before this world record came in at 52 moves by Feliks and 45 moves by Matyas. 31 moves might not seem like it's that short. In fact, it seems quite reasonable for such a fast time at first glance. Except for when you actually inspect the improvised moves he made. Let's dive even deeper. This is the set of moves that Telesforo claims to have improvised. Right now, it might just look like a random set of moves, but let me put it in some context for you. Take a fully solved Rubik's Cube. Perfect. Now, let's do a J-perm on it. Remember one of those last steps to solve the cube? Yeah. Now let's scramble this cube with the exact same scramble that Telesforo had gotten and in theory had never seen before. Now let's put it through a computer program that can calculate the most optimized and most efficient solution for this. This is the optimal solution. By performing the last step on a solved cube first and then scrambling it with the exact same scramble that was given to him during his solve, Telesforo would theoretically be able to get a perfect solution up until the very last step, the J-perm, by putting it through a software. On comparing the optimized solution and Telesforo's improvised moves, you can clearly see that they're exactly the same up until the very end. Except even that is exactly the same. These last 4 moves, B prime, U prime, U, B prime, do the exact same thing as just moving the backside twice, a B2. What was the thought process here? Using redundant moves to make the solution seem more plausible, huh? Hey, don't copy my homework entirely, okay? Change some stuff up. To think of and perfectly execute this extremely random yet perfect solution in 4.41 seconds with an inspection time of 15 seconds is incredibly difficult. Impossible by human means, actually. He had to have access to the scrambles beforehand and may have used software or devices to practice the perfect solution. There was no doubt left in anyone's mind. Telesforo had cheated. He had made history twice. Once by breaking the world record by such a landslide and having the first official sub 5-second Rubik's Cube solve, and then once again by becoming part of the most infamous cheating scandals in cubing history. There's a really good interview that goes into his side of things, but I'm not gonna include it here to save you guys from the god-awful AI dubbing that YouTube decided to give it.
Show, one of the Chinese guys was, well, I don't know. Well, yes, he has Chinese guys, but not long ones. Oh, then you confused him.
Yeah, heretic.
Yeah.
He went with me to the tournament.
He seems to stand firm on it being real, so there's that. In the end, Telesforo was given a 2-year ban and multiple videos made about him that I will link in the description. God damn, that hurt, Carl. Wait for me to finish the call. Whatever. Fabio, can you please do your own introduction? I need to go get some bandages or something. Wait. Before Fabio introduces himself, let me introduce you to CraftyCube. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Stay, don't skip. Please, man, I need this. I don't make any money from these videos. Do you like Rubik's Cubes? Yeah. Well, then CraftyCube is just what's missing from your life. Well, apart from Lauren. Please call back Lauren, I beg you, please. I can't live without you. CraftyCube is an Australia-based cube store run by these two very awesome and very cool people. Look at all these cubes! Look at all these accessories! They have big cubes, weird cubes, square ones, clocks, and so much more. They even have coaching in case you suck. Now, you might be thinking,
But Ruby, I'm broke. I can't afford things unless they have a 6% discount code on them.
and to that, I say, what? But if you use code RUMI, it will solve that problem. Use my code at checkout to get 6% off. That's one more than 5% off. Again, that's craftycube.com.au. Go check them out. The link is in the description. All right, Fabio, do your thing.
What up? I'm Fabio de Rose, professional magician and puzzle enthusiast from Brazil. I'm very active in the r/cubers subreddit under Enigmagico. I'm a CFOP kind of guy and recently decided to take 3 blind seriously after knowing it for a few months but never really pushing myself to get good. Now this has changed, and both 3 blind and multi-blind have become my favorite events. I'm yet pending an official success, which doesn't stop me from trying my best.
Great, thank you. The school nurse gave me some ice. Why don't they have anything else? This was Fabio on March 31st, 2017, and he had just joined the speedsolving.com forum. I'd like you to really focus on these parts of his intro. Fabio was in fact a professional magician. I mean, just look at that magical stash. He was also extremely well liked within the community, with him being a very active member of the Cubers subreddit. Someone even made a wallpaper out of one of the quotes he'd said, and to be honest, I actually really like it. I can stand by that. It wouldn't be long though before his official success will come around, and boy did he succeed. Take a look at this. Minarium opens spring 2018. Fabio produces a 26-second solve blind. Granted, it was +2'd because the cube was one move away from being solved, but a 28-second solve blind is also very, very impressive. Even more impressive though is getting a record. In the Campeonato Brasileiro 2018, Fabio would break the South American record single for 5x5 blindfolded, with a time of 9 minutes and 2.31 seconds. Fabio is onto something incredible here. Or is he? Right before Fabio's South American record in 5x5 blind, Fabio had DNF'd a 37-minute solve. And right before the 28-second 3 blind single, his last official single was 53.81 seconds. Something didn't add up. A lot of people now, including the WCA delegate that was present there, were suspicious. Pretty much immediately, the WDC was contacted to open an investigation, like every other case we've seen so far. So, the lead of the case sent out 2 emails to Fabio. They pretty much went like this. Hey, what happened during the event? Huh? Like in 5x5 blind, what happened? What were you doing? Nothing out of the ordinary, I suppose. I lost my earplugs, I guess. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, I don't care. Why did you move? What? Why did you move? Can you elaborate? Yes, why did you move to another place on the second attempt? I just kind of moved the chair sideways because the lighting on the venue was kind of, Are you even listening? Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. So, how long have you been practicing 5x5? A normal question. No, for about a year probably. Thanks for asking. How about you? Why did you put a sign on a chair that said no one can come in? It literally just says please be silent. Also, why am I here? Why are you throwing all of these accusations at me all of a sudden? So why are your other solves so slow? Nerves in it. Why is your average nowhere close to being able to produce such a result? Nerves in it. Why did you cheat? Nerves in it. Ha! Got you! I'm out of here. The WDC's questions seemed very hostile, and they sometimes just completely ignored Fabio's answers to work with their bias. But one thing the other professionals at the WDC could immediately see was the fact that the scramble Fabio had solved was not the same as what had been assigned to him. Some believed that it was sleight of hand before the solve had even begun to switch out his cube with another cube that had a scramble that Fabio had access to already. This doesn't make sense for anyone else other than our professional magician friend Fabio. So, even though the investigation felt kind of biased, Fabio was given a 1-year ban on all WCA competitions. His 28.19 was disqualified, along with all of his 4x4 and 5x5 blind solves at the Campeonato Brasileiro 2018. Well, that kinda sucks. If only there was some kind of twist to this investigation. The community that loved Fabio so dearly was not having it. They were, and rightfully so, not happy with the conclusion of him being banned for a year. And so a bunch of speedcubers who would like to remain anonymous stepped forward and wrote a defense letter to the WDC titled "In Defense of Fabiano Pereira." Fabio now had his own version of lawyers, and they were not messing around. They called the WDC out on some very questionable investigation tactics they had used. In the investigation, the WDC used a single picture of Fabio's solve 14 seconds into it to judge the entire state of the cube. But according to the defense, judging the state of the cube with a single picture that far into the solve is quite literally impossible. We can also possibly explain the discrepancy in solve times by looking at Fabio's solve patterns. It's always a slow solve followed by a fast solve. According to the defense, this is a very common strategy used by blind solvers. A safety solve first that works as a fallback, so you can go all in on your next solve and still have a valid average of 3. Also, there was just no evidence of Fabio adding a chair that blocked entry to other people. I wonder where that came from though. There's a lot more technical reasoning involved that, to be honest, I don't really understand, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Again, all of the documents are linked in the description. The pressure was on. The WDC couldn't possibly ignore a defense so strong. All they wanted was for Fabio's ban to be lifted and his results reinstated. Pretty much everyone at this point was rooting for Fabio, including this French guy, which I can't show you because of the god-awful AI dub. Something was still off. The WDC was now adamant on finding answers and were more suspicious than ever. Remember the video of Fabio during his 26-second solve? The astute among you may have noticed that it only starts after the memorization stage of his solve is done. This is because the person who recorded this hit record for a reason. The memorization time for Fabio's second solve was 7 seconds. Noticing this, Fabio Bini Graciose, who I'll call Bini to avoid confusion, immediately started recording. Things were now gonna take a wild turn. While everything was in Fabio's favor, the WDC had evidence that Fabio probably thought would go completely unnoticed. They had Diego Meneghetti. Diego was someone who had been an acquaintance of Fabio for a while. They warmed up together and competed in events together too. Diego knew exactly what Fabio's level was when it came to cubing. And the best part? Diego was solving about 3 feet away from Fabio's table, with the same scramble set in the same round. Diego starts first though, and is finished by the time Fabio starts his second solve. Once he's done, he notices Fabio standing up and complaining about something. A +2. The time on the display was 26 seconds. Diego thought they were joking. He laughed. They were not joking. That was, in fact, Fabio's official second solve. Diego knew immediately something was wrong. There had to be a mistake because he knew for sure that Fabio was not capable of producing such a result. Neither of them use advanced techniques like floating buffers, so he knew Fabio's solution had to be 10 algorithms long. His own solution was also 10 algorithms long. After Fabio had completed his third and final solve, Diego would ask him about the solution to his 26-second solve. He kept waiting and waiting for Fabio to mention floating buffers, but nothing. He said he was having a headache and couldn't think straight. He refused to reconstruct the solve. Entirely possible, but also convenient. He did tell him, however, that it was 8 algorithms. Later that evening, Diego brought his cube to Fabio, scrambled the exact same way as the second solve. He'd tell Fabio his own solution, his exact reconstruction, hoping that Fabio would mention floating buffers. But to his dismay, Fabio claimed that it was the exact same solution that he had done. 10 algorithms now, not 8. Diego then finds out that Bini had recorded Fabio's solution. By the next day, Diego now had the video of Fabio's solve. Without telling that Diego now possessed video footage of the actual solve, he asked Fabio for a reconstruction the very next day. Fabio now obliges. This is what he sent. Diego had finally figured it all out. Nothing from the reconstruction matched what Fabio was saying, and more importantly, it didn't match the video of the solve. While this is overwhelming evidence against Fabio, this was not enough for the WTC. They dug even deeper. From a video of Diego's solve, which has since been removed unfortunately, you can see a black box in front of Fabio. Fabio apparently moved this box in a very peculiar manner. Not picking it up, he instead drags it. A few moments before receiving his cube for the second solve, notice where the box is. Actually, why is it even there? Anyway, this is where the box is a few moments later. It moved. Why? There was no camera there or any sort of filming equipment. Now, while in the midst of solving, the box moves once again. This time, it wasn't dragged, it was picked up and placed on top of the other half of itself. And then again, once Fabio is done solving, the box moves to an entirely new position. This is weird. Why is that box moving so much? It shouldn't even be on his mind, considering the incredible time he'd gotten. According to a professional magician come cuber, just like our Fabio, this was evidence for a sleight of hands to switch out the cubes. And amidst the chaos of Diego just having broken the national record himself, it's entirely plausible that pretty much nobody was focused on Fabio. Perfect environment for wizardry. Well played, Fabio. The fans were devastated. Nobody wanted to accept that the Fabio, who had been so kind and loving to the community, had cheated. Fabio had his ban extended to 2 years, and his solves stayed disqualified. I honestly kind of don't like how the WCA treated Fabio during the first investigation, but the second investigation was quite thorough and had enough evidence for the ban. So, Carl, blow them both up, will you? I'm sure Feliks Zemdegs needs no introduction to most of you. But for those uninitiated, you should watch this video I made covering him. As a summary, Feliks Zemdegs was the most dominant cuber the world had seen. The reign of Feliks Zemdegs and just the sheer number of world records he's broken is unprecedented. Over 100 world records and over 400 gold medals later, he still stands as one of the most influential cubers the cubing community has ever cubed. So wait, why is he on this list? You're telling me the Feliks Zemdegs cheated? Well, yes, but also no. Not in a way that anyone would care about. Whilst the kind of cheating we have covered so far is in official competitions and had the WDC involved, for Feliks's case, we need to go way back. Way back to 2008, when Feliks was 12 years old and had just hit a sub-20 average. Wow, so young and so fast, you go little Feliks. Except he lied! Feliks would go on to apologize for cheating and promise that he would only post legitimate solves from them. Actually, I'll let you hear it from the man himself.
Well, I was a little kid, 12 years old, kind of posting a lot on the speed solving forums, and back then there was another forum called the masterthecube.com forum, and I was fairly active on those forums and posting all my times and improving, and I don't know what I was doing. Essentially, I just, for most of my solves, started with the cross solved or mostly solved.
On the 9th of June 2008, just a few months after starting, he posted an 18.46 average on YouTube and posted it to speed solving as proof that he really was that fast. 5 hours and 11 minutes later, he confessed that he had faked the solves, deleted the video, and would only post legitimate ones from then on.
That's honestly just plain adorable. To see how far he has come is truly inspiring.